Hi, good morning. My name is Conalisa Mahu with Lighthouse News and Notes. Today I'm here with the Center for Planetary Management with a very special guest too, in fact, Daniel Raphael, who is a transmitter receiver for Machiventa Melchizedek. We heard from Machiventa last week. We had great information from the celestial point of view, and today we have more to hear from Machiventa. So welcome. If you are here with us today in the Zoom audience, we thank you. And if you are listening to this later on, we thank you again for joining us in this conversation. So once again, I am with the Center for Planetary Management. We have this nice large Zoom audience here. Our team that is present is Jack in France. Jack, you just give a wave. Stefan in Washington State. Bob in Colorado, and of course Daniel, who's also in Colorado, and then our guests Mark Rogers and Salvatore. Thank you again for being here. I am going to make a quick adjustment on here so that we can see you guys better. We didn't do this prior to, my apologies, but let's do this just a little bit and get you guys straightened out here. So we can see everybody, if it'll cooperate with me. All right, there, that's a little bit better. All right, so Daniel, we appreciate you being here with us today and bringing Machiventa to the forefront for these important conversations. We are humans. We're on a planet in crises. And the Celestials are here. They have a plan, and they're here to co-creatively work with us to bring about change on our planet. We can't do it alone. We haven't done a good job over the last 200,000 years. We've made a mess. And so these conversations are exceptionally important to help people who see the planet in crises and don't exactly know what to do. So last time we were here, we had some conversation about this is not a new religion. And the broadcast that we posted generated a question and a person requesting healing for a sister. And so this brings up a very important distinction. Christ Michael, as Jesus was here on the planet before, he did bring healing to the planet. Machiventa, you're not here necessarily to bring healing, but could you please address, when people are in crises, they're experiencing disease and potential death, how would you suggest that humanity perceive that? And what is beyond this mortal being? Thank you.
This is Machiventa. Thank you for your statement. Very broad. Well, my friends, were we now in the company of Jesus, would we feel fear? Would we feel harm? Would we feel that we are soon to die due to illness? No, of course not. The eminence of Jesus would be shot through us. And you would feel that completely and totally. You would be relaxed and at peace. Your first step in your prayer work to Jesus, to God, to the healing angels, is one to be out of fear. This may take you a few minutes, it may take you a few years, but your fear is dissolved in your assurance and your confidence in Jesus, and in knowing that He is the way, and in Him you have your way. And when you have faith in Him, you have faith in God, you have faith within, with the thought adjuster God presence within you, then you have begun to empower yourself to effectively become a healing partner with us and with Him. Your fear is always an acid in the recipe of life and of progress and of goodwill. You must rid yourself of the acid of fear. True, total, complete trust in God, the God presence within you and Jesus, is essential for effective prayer. You can recall times in your life when you had fear about something, whether was a scary ride at the carnival or the circus, or something of looking over a steep cliff at the Grand Canyon, unless you overcame your fear and you did it. Still within yourself, you may be hesitant and wondering if you'd done the right thing. However, you did show your intention, and your intention is primary to who you become in your afterlife. It is primary to the help that you receive now during your mortal life. And now I will teach you once again how to pray effectively with angels, with Melchizedeks, with healing individuals, with God, with Jesus, Christ Michael, Nebuchadnezzar, is this procedure. It's more like a request. And you address the person. You say, "Dear Jesus, would you be willing to heal me of this problem, whatever that may be?" And Jesus will always answer yes. And you must realize that the answer he can give you is limited by the condition of your fear. If you're totally in fear, then your fear will take over. So, my friend, when you put in this request, "Jesus, would you be willing to assist me in healing myself?" Jesus will say yes. And then you say to Jesus or the angels, you say, "I will that you do that. Would you be willing to do that?" And he will say yes once again. And then you will say, "Please move ahead to fulfill my prayer." Now, friends, you might think that is fairly audacious, that you are requesting, even commanding the angels to move forward on a prayer that they have agreed to. But this is what is needed. This is called commitment. This is called faith, trust, and in the end, when fear is God, you know that you will have the experience of being healed. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Machiventa. When a secondary person enters in and requests prayer, how would you recommend that person, such as our viewer, who wants healing for someone else? Could you address that, please?
Yes, certainly. This is Machiventa. The secondary individual is not as efficient, efficacious, or effective in this process. The most effective, of course, is the primary individual. Again, with the secondary person putting in a similar request, that request is even more difficult if the individual, the primary individual, does not have the faith, the knowing, the trust, or the acquaintanceship with God within themselves. This request is remote. It's important that you understand a remote request from a secondary person. It is very much inadequate to do the job. However, I do give you an adjunctive uh, guidance, and that is to do this. You call a person up, you see them, you talk to them, you say, Well, Mary Ellen, I'm going to pray for you. I feel that you are God's child and that you are worthy and deserving of having this problem healed. Do you object to that? Well, if they object to that, then your work is done. If they say, please do, then you say, I will. And so when you are apart from them or in their company, you pray for that individual and with the same kind of conditions that I directed you with the first explanation I gave you a few minutes ago. We are seeking individuals who are friendly to us, to God, to Jesus. You don't have to be a Jesusonian or a Bible thumper or a God freak to have this work effectively. You simply must know that the universe is a friendly place. It has friendly operators and friendly guidelines on how to proceed constructively, positively, and to accomplish the things that you desire. Of course, those things must be in keeping and in parallel and in alignment with God's will. And so the effective prayer is always in alignment with God. Thank you.
Thank you, Machiventa, for addressing that for us. It's extremely important that we as humans understand the role that fear plays, and our team discussed that even this week. The role that fear has in keeping us from actually doing the work we're called to do here sometimes, which is to reach out to family and friends, to let them know that you're here and there's a plan. Does anyone in the audience and our Zoom audience have questions for Machiventa at this time that is relative to our subject matter today? This will be a very short session with Machiventa if you folks don't have questions. Machiventa, could you, since there's no questions in particular, I'm going to extend this conversation about fear. How would you recommend that humans who are dealing with extreme fear change and reside in a place that is not in fear?
Ms. Machiventa, most certainly, and I thank you for your question. Again, I return to the scene where we are standing next to Jesus. And that we know that Jesus is safe, that Jesus has our best concerns in mind, always. And Jesus has no other agenda for us but the expansion of God's presence within us, that we become more and more perfect as every day passes, and as we will to become perfect in that regard. It is the transition between the human being, existential meaning, and becoming the pre-merantial human being, existential, is a huge leap. But it is always preceded by the assurance that you have a benefactor, that you have a protector. One scenario that I know intimately from one of my mentorees is that in the depth of their despair, their tremendous depression, that this individual recited the knowing that she was a child of God, and that God does not make junk. God does not make individuals inherently fallible. Individuals are, and you know, are not fallible. They have all the will and capability and capacity and potential to become highly spiritized individuals in the flesh. Choosing to be fallible is a choice. Choosing to reject your fallibility is a decision you must make. It is one of those spiritually existential decisions and commands that you must make to be an effective child of God as a mortal, one who is growing. And above all, you must forgive yourself that you have fear, that you are fallible in your fearful thinking, and that you reject that, and that you ask for assistance to reject your fear and your fallibility, that you may day by day become more perfect. And in that perfection, you gain the assurance that you are truly a, a receiver of the beneficence of God, and that you are safe, and there is a way forward. And when you seek opportunities for assurances of God's presence, they will be given, and you are safe. It is important that you know you are safe. God does not make, in its original plan of your species, in your genome, fearful individuals who would be inherently fallible and capable of, of unwilling fear and unwilling error. The heritage of fear goes a long way back to your ancient ancestors. You have a great deal of epigenetic memory about fear. You have fear reinforced in yourself as a child, as a young adult, perhaps in a peer group or by some authority figure as you were a teenager and young adult. These are cause for trauma. These are the things you must also pray for, that you would be rid of these PTSD memories of fear and of paranoia and so on. You want to be whole and complete. That's what you want to pray for. You want to be rid of those fallibilities, and your thought adjuster, the God presence within you, is fully capable of assisting you to do that. It is your choice then, your will, your necessity to become aware of those fallible thoughts as they arise and say, "Be gone with you, my thought adjuster is here. I am a rising, shining star of God as a mortal, and I am becoming perfect." I thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, Machiventa, for exploring fear with us. It seems that the major fear I've encountered with folks is the fear of failure. And what I hear you saying is that we cannot fail. We should have no fear of failure. Could you address that for just a few minutes, please?
Oh, Danny, you jumped right into that, didn't you?
Absolutely. These are the things that people want to know most. I mean, from a celestial perspective, yes.
Please repeat the succinct part.
Yes. Could you please address the fear of failure and how humanity should view the fear of failure?
Most certainly. That's one of my joyful uh, parts to explain.
Thank you.
Fear of failure, this is Machiventa, fear of failure compared to what? Almost none of you ever asked that question. And compared to a friend, fear of failure of that someone has given you a challenge, whether it's a peer or superior or a professional or sports that you have wanted to engage and you have set a standard for yourself that you want your perfect a personal record to be better than the one last time and better than the running mate next to you or swimming mate. You have to realize that failure compared to what? Compared to whom? And who authorizes this comparison? God doesn't. God sees you as perfect, perfectly becoming the perfect individual you will be in eternity. You don't have to compare yourself. You don't have to struggle with anxiety, struggling with the possibility of failure. In God's eyes, you're always a success. You're a winner. See yourself with purple and blue ribbons on your on your lapel and on your wall. See yourself as achieving God's greatest challenge of this lifetime, living each day successfully. You are a beloved child. How can you compare yourself when you're the most loved individual God knows today? Of course, to be fair, God loves everyone the same way. But you must take this personally. You must invest it in yourself. You must reflect on that. You must own it. If you if you don't own it, then you can continue to compare yourself and challenge yourself to overcome some standard which is false. Remember, the factor of materialism in your world is object quantity based. As a child of God, you are value quality based. Quality value. You see, you're not valued for the cars you own or the grades you get or the speed you have to surpass everyone on the track or in the swimming lane or anywhere else or being the highest earner in your financial firm. No, you are loved because you just are. You just exist. You are an element of God's universe, never to be rejected for failure, never to be rejected for coming in second. You'll always be first in God's eyes. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Machiventa. It's just warmth to the heart to hear from a celestial who can explain the love that God has for humanity, for each one of us, and that we cannot fail if we're not comparing ourselves to anybody else. Salvatore, you have been very patient. You have been unmuted. I think that you have a question. Please go ahead.
I have more of a comment than a question. All of us are knowledgeable of the teachings of the Urantia book, and everybody dies. We have to know that as mortals, that we're not animals. We have a future ahead of us that makes us different. And I think the animal is fearful where mortals should never be fearful. That's the Urantia book. Uh, my point is that we are here in a group of mortals doing something for the planetary enhancement. And what are we doing? And the point I want to make is there is a future. There is a plan that we all have to adjust to. I was raised a Catholic. My parents became Jehovah's Witness. Religion. This is not a religion. This is awareness that we're all citizens of a bigger universe, a bigger paradigm that is not just Earth. We are all citizens, and we have to make that known. The Urantia book is key to me and to all of us of what we should be doing. What is my legacy? What is our legacy? I want to bridge Urantia. Everybody knows my little spiel about playing bridge, but we gotta, we gotta do something in the now. And the past is the past, and I'm looking at what we can do as a force, a corporeal staff for the coming of Manjaran San and opening the world to knowing the Urantia book is just a snapshot in time about what we should know. What are we doing now? That's my comment. I should thank you for inviting me.
Thank you, Sal, for bringing that to our attention. Yes, as UB readers, we know we have a foundation that a lot of folks do not have. We have been given this extra knowledge. And that was one of the reasons, Sal, actually, for discussing the role of fear and what is fear keeping us from spreading the good news, so to speak. That's why I wanted and asked Machiventa to address the role of fear in our own lives as far as sharing this great news that we have. Daniel, you have a comment. Please go ahead.
I don't, but Machiventa does.
Certainly. Thank you. Go ahead, Machiventa.
Sal, thank you for your comment. You, we've had great interest in following your life. To the point, the Urantia group people are the choir. Many within that choir do not practice as though this was the only mortal life they will have. And in our terms, it is the only mortal life you will have. And that there's a lack of commitment, a lack of sensitivity to within that group for taking action, for talking among themselves. When we recently, a few moments ago, talked about faith and trust and losing fear, this is the same discussion that must go on with the Urantia group books. Yes, they sit around and read the Urantia book. That's wonderful. Ho hum. But what they really need to do is discuss the existential realities of being human with the reinforcement of the Urantia of the reinforcement of the principles and teachings of Jesus, so that they are able to move ahead to being enlivened. We see very few enlivened Urantia book readers. And when we do, we're excited. How it carries over to the rest of the Urantia book choir is something that needs to be invented. There is no fear in taking Jesus on personally. There is no fear at all in recognizing that you are a son of Jesus and that you live with the same enthusiasm as traditional fundamentalist Christians when they discovered that God was within them as they see it. The other audience are those people outside of this religious community. They are the congregation rather than the choir. There is a need for that also. You recall the old statements, Jesus is here. Let him live in your heart. Discover Jesus. He's in the Bible and New Testament. Well, when people discover Jesus in the fourth book of the Urantia book, fourth section, that really brings Jesus close to home to them. These are two audiences that need assistance. Simply selling and hawking Urantia books at conferences and so on is not sufficient. Yes, I know. We know personally those individuals who have gone to those conferences and sold them at the Urantia outlet. And these are sincere individuals. These are people who are on fire with Jesus. And so they make good teachers and make good, what you would call nowadays, influencers. And that's what we're seeking, influencers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that comment, Machiventa. Sal, did you have any follow-up comments or questions?
Not at this time. Other people would like to speak, so I will hold my mouth. Thank you.
Thank you for bringing that up, and that's a great question for Machiventa, especially since those of us here primarily are UB readers. Stefan, you've unmuted, so please go ahead.
Thank you for being here, Machiventa. It's always this powerful session. And I wonder if you would like to speak to what I think is the ultimate irony, that fear of death actually contributes to killing us.
This is Daniel. Try that again.
I think the ultimate irony is that our fears, especially our fear of death, actually contributes to killing us. The thing that we're most afraid of, we actually invite into our life. We actually get it because we're so afraid of it. We attract what we're afraid of.
This is Machiventa. uh, your question is very astute, and you're exactly right that thoughts held within form without. Thoughts held within form within your body. Let us juxtapose that to the joy that passes all understanding in your hearts and your mind. This one was reminded when he was in the hospital getting his intake exams from doctors and nurses, particularly the one internist, senior internist, who, upon putting the stethoscope upon his chest, noted that he had a heart murmur. Immediately, she noticed that. And she says, you look fairly healthy. Well, and he told her, well, I'm 81 and a half today. That was on Thursday. She goes, what? She says, you are far too robust to be 81 years old compared to all the individuals, the hundreds, if not thousands of individuals I have seen who are 81 and older. Your difficulties with your heart surely are something we can attend to positively. There's no trick to this for life and living, is living in the moment. If you worry about the future, then you worry about death. If you worry about your discretions in the past, then that is the past and you can't do anything about them. And you can't do anything about the future unless you do it in the moment. If you are fearful of death, then certainly get it on, experience it, and come back. You will find, as this one has in a near-death experience, that the afterlife is most peaceful. It is joyful. There's a calmness to it that passes all understanding. Choosing to return, one must then contend with the fear of death, or the lack thereof. Lacking a fear of death gives you the capacity to live in the moment, truly in the moment. Where would you like to experience the presence of God? In the future? How about right now? You have to live in the moment. Eckhart Tolle, one of your mortal friends, very wise, speaks about the moment, the now, as primary to life and living. So if you are worrying about death, then you're already, in many ways, already dying. Thank you.
Thank you, Machiventa.
Thank you, Stefan, for that question. Thank you, Machiventa, for your response. and because we're on the subject of death, even since the beginning of this broadcast, could you please just give us an explanation, Machiventa, of what happens when a person transitions from this mortal realm into the realm beyond? No pressure.
This is Machiventa. You're baiting me. Yes, and my friends, read your Urantia book. It's very well explained. So I will not give you a detailed rehash of what it says. Read it word for word. It is well explained. You have also search engines who can search those topics for you and the whole genre of it. You have an experience ahead of you by doing so. For me to recite that to you is old news. You want to engage that yourself because it is in the moment and is anticipates the future, and you get to decide within yourself what you want to experience in the moment and in the afterlife and in the approach of the minutes after death. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Machiventa. And so, for our viewers who may not be familiar with the Urantia book, if you go to our website, centerforplanetarymanagement.net, and look under resources, we do have a Urantia AI where you can ask any questions from AI about death or anything else that might be available in the Urantia book. And so, Stefan, I'm going to bring you up here real quick because you created that AI resource for us. Could you give our audience a brief explanation of how that works?
Yeah, sure. What we did was we had ChatGPT AI access the entire Urantia book in such a way that it's available to people to ask literally what Kona said, any question about the Urantia book and get an answer. It will give you an overview to exactly the kinds of questions that people are asking, like what happens after death, what's the purpose of life, what is Jesus's message, it just anything. The book, if you're not familiar with the book, it's very large. It's 2,097 pages, and some people find it unapproachable because it is so large. However, this creates a more approachable resource to the Urantia book because you can go specifically to the questions that are most important to you. You can even ask it for advice based on the teachings of the Urantia book and so forth. That pretty much sums it up.
All right, very good. Thank you for that explanation there. I appreciate that because not everybody is familiar with that and how to get to it and how to ask questions. We do have the resource available for you, our viewers who come in after the fact. And even for those of you who are with us today that may not realize that that resource is there. It is available again at on our website. You see on the screen here, centerforplanetarymanagement.net under resources, Ask AI. Martha, your hand is raised. You have a question for us today, or for Machiventa.
Yes, I firstly just wanted to comment on Stefan and then go to a question for Machiventa.
Thank
I
you.
just wanted to add that Stefan, thanks so much. Stefan had not mentioned that he had also linked ChatGPT to 30 years of celestial channeling of celestial messages in the Correcting Time Scholarly Insights. And it is one of the most beautiful resources for getting the kind of information that really matters and that is linked to the 7 values of social sustainability. And that is where I want to start my question to
Right.
Machiventa. And Machiventa, we are so grateful that you're here. Thanks. You wanted to speak to that, Kona?
I just wanted to share with our Zoom audience and our audience that's going to be here later. Here's a screenshot of where you can find the Correcting Time Scholarly Insights, the Teaching Mission, the Ultimate Spiritual Guide, 17 Questions, Jesus, I Speak to You Again, and of course we were referencing the Urantia Book Authority, ChatGPT. So if you go to the website here under resources, again, it's down here under Ask AI. It's part of what we are providing because we know people have lots of questions. And we also know ahead of time that Machiventa has already told us he's declining to answer questions that can be answered elsewhere. So we're going to ask Machiventa questions that cannot be found within these resources, but we want you to know that the resources are available. So thank you, Martha. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Machiventa, again, thanks so much for being with us. My question goes back to what we spoke about earlier, about fear, about failure, and you spoke about intergenerational trauma. If we speak on a in a global perspective, if humans look back at times when they did not behave in ways that are aligned with the 7 values, the examples of slavery and apartheid, what's happening in Gaza at the moment, what happened during the Second World War, many people believe that there's a need for restitution when justice did not take place in the past. I was just wondering if you, as a celestial being, can give us some insight into the idea of restitution. This year, the African Union has called it the Year of Restitution. It is a big theme on many platforms. I just wondered if you could speak to us about restitution and how to heal the expectations of people who have suffered in the past. Thank you.
This is Machiventa. Thank you, Martha, for your question. I've been working on the answer to that for many. Restitution requires a different mindset. If restitution is requested or demanded by the victims, then it is payback, indirect payback. It is making the assailants suffer for what they have done. The true meaning of restitution is to make right. And when an individual is injured, and truly apartheid was a very intimate injury to the individual, intimate injury to the individual, then the restitution must come from within the individual. The best restitution is always never asked for. The best restitution is always offered by the assailant with the knowledge that they say, I have done wrong. I've injured you grievously, and I want to make this right for you without you asking for it. That, my friends, is true restitution. That says so much about the value of the victim to the assailant and the regard and respect for the victim that the assailant now has. Restitution, as it is being practiced throughout the world for racial and ethnic and cultural problems and injuries, is simply another reminder of the culture of getting back. There are whole cultures, such as, I will use a broad brush on this, the Middle East cultures demand that wrongs be righted in the same manner that they were created or occurred or the injury was given. You have now seen centuries of the same problem over and over again without it ever being corrected. Retribution is not the answer. Restitution is not the answer. Reconciliation is not the answer. If reconciliation is associated with material goods to compensate for the injury done, then it has no worth, no value. It is so much empty gesture. But restitution that is emotional, that is social, then you have circumstance for jubilation, for joy, thanksgiving, an end to retribution, an end to getting back. This is the sick part of humanity's civilization, is the cultural proclivities to kill their neighbors because their own family was partially killed or injured. This is nonsense. This is sin at the highest level. This is not doing God's will. And this may be harsh to your ears, as your sisters in South Africa have demanded restitution. A redefinition, a re-identification, succinctly given with love, must be generated now. You must, as a nation, be done with this. Restitution and demanding it is killing your culture. It is perpetuating the apartheid that occurred before. It is continually a rancid, sick odor that continues to waft through the eras and air and cultures of your nation. It is time for emissaries of goodwill and love and understanding to bring forth true definition of reconciliation. You need not do this, sister. You are simply a sharer of the written language. You are requested by us to put that in writing without promoting yourself. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Machiventa. Really appreciate that answer.
Yes, thank you, Machiventa. And you bring up something that I know that people struggle with. On the one hand, we have a God who loves all of us and cherishes all of us, but we also are dealing with the fact that we have those who have done atrocities against humanity. How can humans reconcile both? Where we have a God who loves us, but we have humanity that has done so much, and the idea humans want to judge. So, how do we get away from judgment and reconcile ourselves to this God who loves us? Could you answer that, please?
This is Machiventa. Yes. Very good question. And the simple answer is become Jesus. Thank you.
Thank you. That seems like a tall order, but we know we have access to Jesus through our prayer life, our spiritual life, the Urantia book, etc. So we will have to spend some time with that. B has her hand raised. B, it's always a pleasure to hear from you. Please unmute yourself and join the conversation. B, are you there? All right. Well, when B you can get unmuted, just let me know. Anyone else have a question for Machiventa? Yes, please, Elise. I'm sorry. Yes, Elise, can you unmute yourself? There you go. Still muted. There we go.
Yeah.
Okay, Elise,
Okay.
thank you so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you. Well, thank you, Machiventa, for being here with us today. I have a question. I want to go back to fear because I know someone I love very dearly, who has a great fear to go out in the street and also to get her food in the store and get it over the street to her house, because she always thinks that it is infected or contaminated by the things that she meets in the streets. And well, maybe this is actually a psychic problem, but she has done everything about herself with the help of psychologists and other people to get rid of that, and to no avail. What I want to ask is, she was wondering when she is going to pass over and going to the Morantia worlds, would she be able to get rid of that, or is she without that problem when she goes over, or does she still have to work on it when she goes over? That's my question, Machiventa. Thank you.
Machiventa, thank you for your question. I'm struck first by the sincerity of your request and who you are, Elise. And we thank you for your presence here today. Well, my friend, there's good news for you and for your friend, that when she crosses over to the Morantial realm, her fears will be gone. Yet the inner causes of those fears will remain. That's where the homework is. That has to do with self-worth. That has to do with self-confidence. That has to do with being an equal of everyone else, particularly the most enlightened. And this is solvable, and particularly so when she is with her soul group. She will be given classes about the presence of God. It will be a grand occasion when all of you get to know firsthand the vibration of God around you and in you, because your thought adjuster, the God presence within you, will remain with you. And you will be given lessons and practice of how to feel and talk with your thought adjuster. This is all in preparation for your fusion. And so the fear of germs and of streets and so on, that is a figment of, that is an off-putting, what do they call it, secondary, this Daniel, what does he call it, the secondary manifestation. This is a figment of her imagination, of something far deeper within her. She will be able to address the deepest core, psychological core issues of herself during those sessions with the most trusted and capable and competent of celestial beings in that era and in the realm. This is all very personal. And it becomes very personal when you lose your fear, when you gain your confidence, when you gain your assuredness that you're as worthy as anyone else to feel as strong and confident and safe as anybody else. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Machiventa, for your answer.
Thank you, Elise. That's a profound question. You know, what do we take with us when we cross over? And it seems that those things that we haven't been able to completely deal with here or to let go of, we do take with us. But the good news is that we'll be surrounded by a team of other celestials that can help us continue this process of learning and growing being one of our 7 core values. So thank you for that. We are in the last 4 minutes of our programming. We have just a few minutes left. Is there a final question in this topic area for Machiventa from anyone? All right. If there's no questions, Machiventa, would you like to give us a final statement before we conclude this webcast?
Yes, certainly. This is Machiventa Melchizedek, your planetary manager. It is very important that you reframe your existence here. It's important that you know that this is school. You are learning stuff here. You call it stuff. Kids call it stuff. You are learning to become a whole person. And some of the most fearful experiences that you have are some of the most desperate deficits that you have where you need to learn. This is a school of opportunity. If you reframe your problems and you see them as personal challenges, that will make the whole difference in your fear and in your lack of confidence and who you when you say, I just realized I just compared myself, you don't ask, why did I do that? But you ask, what is it about comparison that seems to really bug me? And so you want to know that. You search for the answer. You ask for answers. Your guardian angel is there. Your thought adjuster is there. Your celestial teacher can be there if you wish. And so you get more and more direct answers. And you ask for indirect sources of wisdom for you through signs, symbols, and omens. Who knows where that might come? You must remember that you live in the potential of all vectors and the nectar of all vectors. When two vectors meet, you call that a coincidence. We call that divine order. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Machiventa, for a very rich conversation. Thank you to our Zoom audience for bringing your questions and concerns. Thank you to the person who reached out on our YouTube video and asked the question about his sister who had a very dire diagnosis, and to recap. Take these things to Jesus in prayer. Know that you're loved very dearly by our first source and center, God, and continue on. Everything's going to be okay. We will be back in 2 weeks with Machiventa again, asking lots more questions. We appreciate everyone here. Daniel, thank you so much for being with us. Thank you for the service that you do to bring Machiventa to the world. And we pray also with you and alongside you and affirm your prayers for your good health. Thank you for sharing that with us today. Folks,
Thank you so much.
you're welcome. We're signing off now. As a reminder, we're with the Center for Planetary Management. If you have any questions, you can email us here. Again, we'll be back in 2 weeks. Thank you so much for being with us. God's will and God's peace be with you.